Quiet, numbskulls. I'm broadcasting.
This show doesn't leave state lines. It's All Politics Are Local with Barry Dee.
Welcome to another exciting episode of All Politics Are Local, and I'm your host, Barry Dee. We have an exciting show here today. Got a couple things I want to wrap up before we get started. You know, I always want to follow up on things that we've done, where we've been, and where we're going. First thing, Sam the intern is headed back to school in New York, so we're not going to see him again until maybe next summer, if he decides to come back, and never know about that after working with me. Eric is back at the boards with me, a stalwart here at WCHE, keeping things running smoothly, or at least as smoothly as they can be without WD-40. Let's do some housekeeping. This is the part of the show where I do follow-ups on things I have covered in former shows. First, I read a letter 2 shows ago from the Chester County DEI Committee, written by Tyree Lewis. I sent an email to Tyree and asked him to come on the show and tell us about the taxpayer-funded committee that the public really has no idea about. But alas, there has been no response. So we still don't know what the DEI Committee description is or what the goals of what they're tasked with. Yeah, maybe he'll email me this week. Or she. I don't know. They didn't use pronouns. As previously stated, Oxford Main Street did change its application for vendors at the First Friday event, so the political groups such as Democrats and Republicans can both have booths there without getting permission from each other, as long as there is no campaigning at the booth. Mike Mealy, who was a guest on the show when the issue first came to light, is also a member of the Republican committee in that area. He reapplied for the booth, and it was accepted. He reported that he was there promoting voter registration, and it was a great turnout, and the public was very receptive. So good for Oxford Main Street for coming around, even though nobody from the organization would respond to my repeated request to come on the show to talk about their stance on it. As a shout out to that organization, though, Oxford Main Street is having their 10th annual car show on First Friday, September 6th from 3 to 8 p.m. It is sold out for the vehicles, so it's got a full house. So that's going to be a lot of fun because they are loaded with cars. So while they can take no more cars, they are happy to have you as a spectator. So get down there and check it out. It's a great little borough. You'll love it. I've been there a couple times. I just fell in love with the center of town there. Last week, I had Sean McCormick on, a resident of Honeybrook Township, about his water runoff problem coming down 322, also known as Horseshoe Pike. Sean has been to the township several times to resolve this, and they haven't been very helpful. They told him it's a PennDOT road, therefore a state issue, and there's nothing Honeybrook Township can do for him. The township meeting videos shows a very combative administration, so I thought it best to invite all the supervisors or the representatives, such as the township manager, on the show to explain why the township won't work with a resident in bringing this to the higher level. Sometimes when you got a little bit more push when you have the municipality behind it, it really helps. This not only affects him, according to Sean, but other neighbors. I sent emails to supervisors Laura Birdie, Sal DiGiacomo, and Tracy Olson, and here was the response. This was really a good one here. Hold on, check this out. Yeah, that's all we got on that one. So I actually took the time to visit the location and look at the situation, and the water does come from the state highway, but it runs down the municipal street before getting to the private properties, and it's because the engineering of the street when the development was approved by the township didn't take into account the channeling of the water. It could have easily been resolved at the time of the approval by Honeybrook Township and their engineers, but nobody thought about it. I get it, things happen, but it could still be fixed quite easily. It's not clear why the municipality isn't interested. I would still love to have someone come on, even the roadmaster, but I would suspect it's going to continue to be this again. Yeah. So, let's get on to the next thing. Speaking of crickets, I've had no response from my latest round of invitations from some of the candidates running for office. Candidates that have had their districts fully or partially in Chester County to come on the show, including... hold on a second. Come on the show and talk about the campaigns and platforms. Many are current office holders everyone that comes on gets a fair interview, and it's only 15 minutes or so. So I don't get this. Here's the list as follows. Representative Christine Howard, Representative Paul Friel, Representative Daniel Friel-Otten, no relation, by the way, Representative Christina Sappi. In fairness, she did respond and turn me down, much like most of my dating career. Candidate for Representative Elizabeth Morrow and Westchester's own Senator Carolyn Committa, along with Senator John Kane. All nothing. Representative John Lawrence has committed to a show, and I think he's going to be on next Friday. So why don't we get to 5 minutes with Jack? Jack gets 5 minutes to talk about what Jack wants to talk about in this episode. This got bumped from last week's show due to time constraints, so it's slightly out of date, but still pertinent. So let's get to it.
Jack, you with me?
Barry, how you doing? It's been a while.
It has been a while. You know, you weren't fired. You were just temporarily displaced.
Understood, Barry. And I want to tell you, I've been transfixed on the Olympics while I was on my hiatus.
That was an interesting term, transfixed.
Yes, not to be confused.
Do tell what you got going on. The Olympics, they were great. I loved and fell in love with the gymnasts. Oh, my God, Team America, what a cute bunch of kids. They did so well. I was so impressed with them. I'm guessing that's what you're talking about?
Not exactly, Barry. As you know, I have a little background in boxing, and of course, in boxing, the most important thing in boxing is weight class, because you certainly don't want to have an advantage where you have a 155-pounder going up against a 170, because while it doesn't seem like a lot, when it comes to punching power, it's amazing the difference.
Yeah. I remember you kind of learned that early in life, didn't you?
Certainly did. So that's what creates the weight classes of who will fight who, because of course you want evenly matched as much as possible, so that skill takes over.
Same thing with wrestling, right?
Yes, you don't want a dramatic disadvantage from one opponent to another. So what astounded me was the women's boxing.
Yeah, I didn't watch it. I don't like to see women box.
Yeah, well, it only came into the Olympics in 2012, so it's relatively new. But this year was even more new, to where we actually had men competing against women in the women's boxing division or category. But the weights were the same.
Oh, the weights were the same?
Yes, they certainly followed that guideline.
Oh, well, that's fair enough. I mean, I've been hearing that men and women are exactly the same, other than, one genitalia difference. So I don't see what the problem would be.
Well, there's more to it than that, Barry. There's a chromosome, the XXXY, testosterone, estrogen, things like that. And we understand that muscle mass on a man is considerably more than a woman. So growing up, Barry, any man that hit a woman, that would constitute a felony, and you would go to jail. You got a different type of jewelry. You got bracelets, and they hauled you off to jail. But in the 2024 Olympics in Paris, they got a necklace, and they received a gold medal for beating up a woman in the ring.
Well, but the guy claimed that he was a woman. Again, I didn't watch much of this stuff. I heard it on the periphery. So I don't understand. What was the problem here?
Well, the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, deemed that the boxer was in fact a woman based on their passport. That was the stringent vetting that they did.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, golly, I guess if the passport says female, you are a female?
There you go. I think it kind of settles it, Barry. I mean, what else is there to say? It was certainly fair. The best woman won.
Well, in this case, Jack, I think what you're saying is that women have to realize that men are better women than women. Is that really it? Even, now see, that's what it comes down to. I guess that's really it. I guess that women aren't even good at being women. See, it's a man's world, apparently, according to Olympics.
Apparently.
I'm just translating it. I'm trying to. This is a murky world I'm in. Kind of confused. That's what I think I'm hearing. I could be wrong. So please, no angry letter writing on this. I'm just looking for some clarification here. So, but it was a former man that won the Olympics as a woman.
That's what I understand. I don't know how you go to former, but apparently this day and age, it was good enough to receive gold.
Well, terrific on that. I think that that's stupendous, and I think probably the boxer that won probably said that all her competitors should be barefoot, pregnant, and in the kitchen. That's all I can figure on this. I don't know. I don't know what else to say. I mean, I'm speechless on it.
Well, you know, Barry, I know the level of training that it takes to get to that level. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that the women that had sacrificed their lives in hundreds of hours, we won't use man hours, we'll just say hundreds of hours in the gym, conditioning, refining their skills, only to have it come to an end by competing against a man.
Yeah, Jack, you know, for all my sarcasm in this one, I got to tell you, the bottom line is I'm being a real jerk here, but I'm absolutely disgusted. I'm a huge defender of women, women's sports, women getting ahead in the world, and I think this is absolutely repulsive. And I also believe that any woman that supports a man being allowed to compete in women's sports is going against their very grain. I think it's insulting to women to have that happen because they are different than men, and anybody who denies that is either a fool or an idiot. And I don't care which they are, but I think it was disgusting. So, like I said, all that other stuff was sarcasm, but the bottom line is that's how I feel about it, and it sounds to me like you're the same way.
Couldn't agree more, Barry. I think we need to end the madness. Let's just get back to basics.
Yeah, well, let's hope it goes that way. I'm just not sure if it's going to. So, listen, Jack, I appreciate you being on the show with me, and I'll talk to you again next week, my friend.
Thanks, Barry.
Thanks, Jack. We'll see you.
All right. Thanks again, Jack. I appreciate it. We will have him back on again next week with whatever Jack wants to talk about. Next up, we have Carla from Chester County Ramblings, and she has a bevy of interesting stories this week. Carla, you on the line?
I am, my dear. How are you?
I am doing well, and yourself?
Good. How was your balloon ride this morning?
Oh, we didn't go. It was cutting it too close. I didn't like it. Although it was a beautiful morning, I regretted it, but, you know, I just cutting it too close for the show. So we've bumped that back to Sunday instead.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want to get up at sunrise, you can come with us.
No.
All right. Tell me what you got, darling.
Okay. So before we get started, a little blip to mention how wherever we are, whatever we believe, we all need to be able to have conversations.
That is true.
You and I have been friends for years.
Yes.
We are opposites politically a great deal of the time, and yet we can talk about pretty much anything, even politics.
How about it?
Well, sorry, didn't mean to talk over you, but people have lost that ability, and it bothers me.
Yes, me too.
And, you know, to that vein, all those politicians that, like, are playing dodgeball with email, they need to get over themselves. Don't expect great things from Christine Howard, though, because she's been mute since she started running for office. But anyway.
I've heard that, but I won't say it.
You don't have to. She's not your state rep. We don't have to be bobbleheaded sheeple for either political party, but we need to relearn the art of conversation. So in that vein, have you heard the news about Jim Gerlach?
Yes, I've heard bits and pieces of it, but go ahead.
Okay, the former congressman has joined the board of the Pennsylvania Democracy Defense Project. It's actually a nationwide organization that was created to support transparency, safety, and security and validity of Pennsylvania's election system. That's all I got, because I got a lot else to get through.
We need that. I'm working to get him on the show within the next 30 days. So
that's awesome.
It would be great to have him on, and I'll give him 3/4 of the show.
Well, he deserves it. He's a good dude.
Yes, he is. I totally agree.
So, Abington School District has implemented a policy on cell phones. None K through 5, and after that, no phones in the classrooms. Westchester Area School District has a similar policy that also includes smartwatches. And maybe Great Valley Superintendent should develop cojones and try something similar.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Now, this is something that nobody else has. In West Whiteland, a lawyer at Buckley Bryan, whose name I remember from the early Catalyst billboard discussions in East Whiteland, has been the lawyer recently on the donkey's years saga of these two land parcels on East Boot Road, close to Ship Road in West Whiteland on the border of West Goshen.
Mm-hmm.
It's been like since 2020 that this Columbia Cottage or Horse Group, or whatever they're called, out of Lancaster, have been wanting to put in a senior living facility with memory care and other services. Since then, it has always been the same problem. The property literally has pipelines in it, and the structures would be on top of them, as in Mariner East. ME2 20-inch line, ME2 X 16-inch line, and two other 8 and I think 12-inch lines that were used temporarily for Mariner East. These people need to have an emergency plan as a condition of approval, and they've never really provided one, so they keep getting turned down, and most recently it happened this summer. According to Chester County Court dockets, case 2024-057744-MJ, a Boot Road Senior Properties has filed suit against West Whiteland over this very site as of July 5th. Now, before we all we heard were the names of Horst and Columbia Cottage, and they filed something that says on the docket, because I haven't seen any filings, I just saw the docket face, called a writ of mandamus, which is Latin for we command. Ergo, a writ of mandamus is an order from a court, or that's what they're seeking, for an inferior government official, ordering the government official to properly fulfill their official duties or correct an abuse of discretion. I looked it up. I hope I got it right. Now, also on Chester County Court dockets is 2024-06037-ZB, and this is a zoning appeal filed July 11th. Also Boot Senior Property. But I don't see West Whiteland doing anything other than receiving it. Cue the popcorn. It's going to be fun. Next up, if you don't mind, is historic Hood Mansion in Limerick. And here you thought Limerick was only for nuclear tales, right? Hood Mansion is a crazy cool and historic place. Historic human remains of the Hood family have been found on the Hood estate in Limerick, PA, which has preliminary approval for a massive warehouse project. So how is it they are proceeding or can proceed? The property was also reportedly a stop on the Underground Railroad during the Civil War era, and it makes you wonder about places around here like what was Happy Days Farm off of 100 that was part of a Penn land grant and has been plowed under for mega warehouses.
Oh my God, that excavation site is unbelievable. I flew over it the other day.
I used to photograph that site for years when we would go by when I was a passenger in a car, because I loved the whole view shed, and there was all sorts of historic houses and things on the property.
That was owned by
the
Suplee family back when I was in high school.
Mm-hmm. Well, back when Exton didn't look like Prussia.
Right.
And then there's Lineville Station Farm, where residents banded together and got warehouses off the table, yet no one knows now whom Downingtown Area School District is selling to. But as far as we know, it's not going to be warehouses. Mm-hmm. But the 112-acre Hood Mansion property was purchased by a soulless developer from Brooklyn who does want to grow mega warehouses here. And you can visit worldwideweb.easternpapreservation.org for more information. That's this Preservation Society's home on the web.
Outstanding.
Last blip.
Yes, make this one quick. We got about a minute and a half.
Euclid.
Go.
Residents near Peck Road are suffering the Hollywood effect. HBO is filming on a place they refer to as the Old French Farm, and it's a mess. Neighbors are upset. Something called Task. There's stuff about littering. And dear HBO and Mark Ruffalo, if you're out there, Mark, you're supposed to be an environmentalist. Maybe it's time to make nice with the neighbors around 655 Peck in Euclid. After all, they didn't ask to be part of your Hollywood story, and they certainly shouldn't have to pick up your trash. That's not very environmentally friendly of you.
Yeah, take the neighbors out to lunch. Be nice to them. Leave the place cleaner than when you got there.
Yep.
That'll be perfect. Hey, Carla, thank you for being on today. That's great. We got great updates. Anybody that missed some of that stuff, podcast later on, listen to it. You can pick up all the cues that she put out there for websites and things like that. Carla, we'll talk to you next week. Thank you so much.
All right, honey. Have a good weekend.
You got it. Take care. Bye-bye. Okay, we're going to go pay some bills, and we're going to come back. Eric, do we have Russell Brand on the phone yet?
We do, yep.
Oh, outstanding. Okay, we're going to go pay some bills. 2-3 minutes, we'll be back.
Barry Dee is back with All Politics Are Local.
All right, I'm back. We have two guests today. We have Russell Brand and we have Leslie Holt from A Child's Light. First, I'm going to put Russell Brand on. I haven't talked to him in forever. Comedian, actor, former host of UK MTV, former heroin addict, and former husband of Katy Perry. I'm going to bring him on first and we'll do some talking with him. It's nice politically. He does a lot of cool stuff. So let's get him on there, okay?
It is a great joy to be in your company. Thank you for having me.
Well, Russell, it's great having you on. I haven't talked to you in years, so it's great having you on here. Listen, I just went over your background, actor, comedian, former host, and heroin addict. You've been clean 20 years now, which is fantastic. Former husband of Katy Perry, you were the one that actually asked for the divorce. I mean, wow, that's really something. So, tell me, with your active lifestyle and all that, tell me what really gets you going? What do you like to do? What excites you?
I got it. I like the mirroring of Abraham's sacrifice in the Old Testament and the sacrifice of Christ as the apex.
I was thinking more like
in the New Testament.
More like kayaking or canoeing or
principle. I enjoy too
racing motorcycles.
The endowment of spirit and the spirit of adventure.
Tell you what, Eric,
is the maximal principle.
Why don't we just you just listen?
Father.
We're going to turn him down, and we'll come back to him in a little bit while he's talking, because he can go for a while. So why don't we bring on Leslie Holt? Leslie Holt is with Child's Light, a wonderful lady. She does a yeoman's job, and I wanted to talk to her about exactly what A Child's Light does, because I'm telling you, it's phenomenal what she does for the community. Leslie, happy to have you on today.
Thanks so much for having me, Barry.
Oh, man.
Such a pleasure.
It's great. By the way, we'll come back to Russ.
Yes, I mean, it's what he does,
it's
right?
It's what he does, right? So we'll talk about you. So why don't you start with telling me what A Child's Light is? I'm familiar with it. The audience is not.
Right. So what A Child's Light is, we've been operational since 2019, and we help children who have been severely traumatized, abused, sexual and physical abuse. We help them to heal. We fund them to get long-term mental health care when no other agency has the capability to do that in Chester County.
Why do you think that is? That they just have never dedicated any time to it? No funds, no... What is it?
Well, of course, it's funding. It's always, everything comes down to funding. But I think that post-COVID, there has been, no one could have guessed that there would be this tsunami of kids who have been, kids were already struggling with mental health issues before COVID. And 2 years in lockdown just exacerbated those situations. And, you have to remember, kids were locked in homes with parents, caregivers who were abusing them.
Right.
And no one saw them. So, things open up.
Yeah, they were basically in a jail.
Yes, they were. Many kids were in Chester County, as we saw with the Melinda Hoagland
I was just going to mention that is so heartbreaking. When I first found out about it, I just, an anger wells up inside of you when you read that. Like, how could this happen? I would.
But you know what? Kudos to this district attorney.
Oh, absolutely.
Chris Roby, amazing. An amazing district attorney. And thank heavens he is where he is. So, so I have hope that, Melinda will at least see a little bit of justice.
Right. That's all we can. I mean, it's obviously too late for her otherwise, but, let's see what happens. But, of course, that story is a child that was abused and finally died, and the parents called the cops and said, she fell off her bike. Yeah. Fell off her bike. She weighed 50 pounds, was completely emaciated, bruises all over her, and it didn't take long for them to figure it out. Right. And the girlfriend had a history of doing it before and did time. Yeah. And yet it happened again. Yeah. So it's just unbelievable to me.
So it's so sad. And, so there are cases like that, unfortunately. But then there are cases, too, where I'm just going to give you a statistic. I won't give you too many, although I love them. As you probably know, as your audience probably knows, sexual abuse is the most underreported crime. So kids who have been abused, they have a rate of reporting at only 12%. So what happens to those kids? What happens to those kids that don't report? Well, I'll tell you what happens to them. They start failing in school. They have early pregnancies. And right now, the biggest fear is that they begin to self-medicate.
I was just going to say, they turn to drugs to forget it.
You can't. You cannot self-medicate in this age. This is not like smoking a joint, you get a little high, you go to bed. No, you're literally playing Russian roulette. Fentanyl and its analogs are in literally everything, and every time you take something, you're taking a chance. Yep. And so that's where these kids are. I go to Kensington. I talk to young women that are on the street, and they say that the reason that they're there was because they started using to try and numb their psychological pain. Sure. So we have a whole nother town down in Kensington of people medicating trauma. And so what a Child's Light does is we attempt to get these kids before they're downstream. We try to get them upstream. And so we work with agencies throughout the county. We work with just about every school district. We work with law enforcement. Shout out to Bluebeards for Charity. They participate in giving us funding and have for going on 4 years now. Amazing. Thank you, officers.
I'm familiar with Charis. Charis has worked with you, right? It's another group where they're trying to always get you donations of some sort.
I don't. No. But I hope they do. Not
financially, but they're always asking people to do donations. So to get things into your like, crayons and all the stuff for the kids to work with, things like that.
Actually, we do. There are a lot of. I have to say, a lot of wonderful people in Chester County, wonderful groups that if they know that you need something, because a lot of times people want to help, they just don't know what to do. Right. And so, but with us, with a Child's Light, it because this is not an inexpensive program to run. Anyone who knows how expensive mental health treatment is, but we partner with about 85 private trauma-informed therapists that work with us, partner with us to get these kids into treatment so that their trauma is not the jump-off point for them to, let's say, choose a path in life that they really don't want to take. So what we do is pay for these kids to get the treatment that they need.
Right, and that's only one overhead. You still have to have your location. You still have to have operation expenses, blah, 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 blah. And that's what I was talking about with they donate to things, the art supplies and things like that. There's people that do that type of thing, which anybody can can help single. You don't have to be part of a group, right? I mean, people can just knock on the door and say, I brought you all this.
Yes, and the thing is, too, you can go onto our website and you can make a monthly donation. And I know that people think, oh, if I don't do something big, it doesn't matter. But that's not true.
No.
Even
$10, anything.
$10 a month, and at the end of the year, you've paid for a child to get well. Mm-hmm. And you've literally made a difference in Chester County.
And what is that www?
Oh, it's www.childslight.com.
Outstanding. And Child's Light is spelled normally, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yep.
So people can go take a look at that. While we're talking, go key that in on your keyboard there and take a look at childslight.com and see what it is. So, you should do that. So I'll tell you what, let's take a quick break. Okay. And then when we come back, we're going to see where Russell Brand is, and then we're going to come back to you. Hopefully, he'll have stopped to get a breath, and I can actually ask him another question. So let's pay a couple bills, and we'll be right back.
Barry Dee is back with All Politics Are Local.
And I am back. I'm your host, Barry Dee. I'm here with Leslie Holt. But hey, Eric, why don't we see where Russell Brand is right now? Because
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, let's check him out, see where he's at. So we'll go from there. Let's see what he's doing here.
Is the impossibility of perhaps the equality that it is stated they crave within that framing, i.e. that something that comes from this, forgive the literalism, Genesis would always have to be expressed in this manner.
Absolutely.
To create a paradigm that represented a true expression of the divine feminine,
so true.
It would have to be a different paradigm.
Kill that, would you please? Yeah. He's still on a rant. Okay, so we'll go back to Leslie Holt. She is with me from A Child's Light. So we're going to talk about her day, what it entails, where she goes with all this, because this is a lot of work. First of all, how many people actually volunteer to work with? How many people are in the organization?
So the interesting thing about A Child's Light is that the way we run is incredibly efficient. So when we get funds, sometimes you'll make a donation to an organization and you'll think that that's going towards, helping animals, helping kids.
And it goes to admin.
And exactly. We have a few people that are subcontractors, and our overhead is really low. And we created A Child's Light especially to be like this, so that all the funding, or as much as the funding as humanly possible, comes into the account and goes right out to a therapist, so that the money goes to where people actually believe their funds are going. But a typical day is, we field phone calls from parents, caregivers, grandparents, law enforcement, as I said, agencies all throughout the county, and now we're getting into Montgomery County. We're getting calls from there. Because people are beginning to learn about A Child's Light, and
that's some heavy lifting.
Yeah, it is. And these are parents who they either don't have insurance or they have been put on a wait list for a child. And we are talking children, Barry. We're talking 3, 4, 5-year-old children.
Oh my God.
Who have been sexually assaulted and cannot get their child into mental health services. Just to tell you, A Child's Light works with kids from 2 to 18, and we can get these kids into therapy. And we use different modalities to reach these kids. We fund equine therapy, play therapy, regular talk therapy, music therapy, and a kind of a specialized therapy, which is called PCIT, which is parent-child interactive therapy. And that's for the little tiny ones. And literally, it changes their lives. And the earlier that we can get these kids into services, because their brains are little sponges.
Right.
You know, and so just the way they have collected all these bad experiences, you get them into therapy and these little brains just begin to heal kind of before your eyes. It's an amazing thing.
Mm-hmm.
And these
the longer
kids,
it goes, the harder it becomes.
Yes, exactly, because of those neural pathways that are so dug into their brains. And also what happens is children, they're looking for a reason. Why did this happen? They're not going to blame an adult, so they blame themselves.
Certainly.
And so therein lies the danger of how can I quell these feelings of shame and guilt and everything that comes along with that. And so and just also an aside, there are so many grandparents and kinship families that are now raising nieces, nephews, and grandchildren in Chester County because sometimes both of the parents are gone because of substance use disorder.
Mm-hmm.
And these kids are spread out throughout a family, and they're already predisposed to self-medicating.
Mm-hmm.
It's in their DNA.
Right.
And so we've opened up a Child's Light to try and help those kids too.
And thankfully, they actually get into a family home as opposed to a foster home.
But we work with kids that are in foster care.
Sure, right. Well, a lot of times there's no options for that.
We work
otherwise.
We work with kids that have come from different countries and have experienced incredible abuse. Some of the biggest cases in the county, we are paying. A Child's Light is funding those children to get the mental health care that they needed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, your personal day, like what time in the morning do you get up and head in to start doing things?
Well, it depends on when I get my first call, because sometimes that could be 7:30 in the morning, you know?
And by the way, she dressed like she was going on Channel 6 today. She looks stupendous. Meanwhile, there's
sweet.
Me and Eric are here like, it's radio, nobody cares. I haven't shaved for 6 days. Yeah. Is there still toothpaste on my mouth? You know, she comes in, like the whole place lights up. Here comes Leslie Holt. I actually asked her when I first was talking to her, I said, are you any relation to Laura Holt, who was Stephanie Zimbalist in Remington Steele? You know, and she said, no relation, but stellar. She could have been that. So
you're too kind.
Yeah,
you're too kind, Barry.
So, do you dress like this every day when you go in?
No, you should have seen me an hour ago. I had on my cutoffs and a T-shirt, and I was a big hot mess.
Yeah, well, good.
I'll appear like that next time.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of like Marianne from Gilligan's Island. So tell me about your day. You get up, and what time do you actually start working for a Child's Light? What time of the morning does that start?
It's 8:30 to whenever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because
you never know when the calls are going to come in.
No.
Plus, you have your scheduled people and all that.
Yeah.
And so do you go into a headquarters? Is there a Child's Light Batcave? What do you have?
There is right now. We are looking for a small little location, either to rent share with someone or
that somebody may want to donate.
Yes,
perhaps
that would
listening.
Be lovely.
Yeah. How many square feet do you need?
Not a whole lot. About 1,000.
1,000 square feet.
Yeah.
Nice. So.
Because what we'll do then is because our kids, the way a Child's Light works is we get a call.
Mm-hmm.
Someone is in, say, Honeybrook, and so what we immediately try to do is match a therapist into a location where the family resides to make it easier for them, because most of the time, as I said, they either don't have insurance or they're, they don't have the right insurance.
Mm-hmm.
So, and most of the time, these families are under-resourced.
Sure.
And they are sometimes working 2 and 3 jobs. They don't have all day to take these kids around to get them to sessions.
Right.
So we try to find a therapist who will fit their need within, like, I don't know, a 15-minute drive. So then what we do is, they have paperwork that they need to fill out. It's not laborious. It's not tricky. It's just regular boilerplate things. We try to make that easy because these families are in crisis. And their kids are in crisis.
Need the basic information, and let's get this going.
Yep, exactly. That's it. It's direct, it's focus-driven, and we can get kids into therapy in usually 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yes, and personal best, 3 days.
Oh, my God.
Yes,
that's
a little
incredible.
boy who had been sexually assaulted. I met with him on a Saturday. He was in therapy on Tuesday afternoon.
That's wonderful.
Because these kids can't wait.
Right.
We can't wait.
No.
What we do, what A Child's Life does, is we invest in the future. That's what we do.
And that's exactly what it is. This is our future.
Exactly.
And it's going down the toilet.
Yes.
And very quickly. And
yes.
This is not only a problem for them. Of course, the most important thing is it's a problem for them, it's a problem for the family, and it's a problem on all of us, right? Because we're all going to shoulder that burden eventually with whatever it is.
Yes. So true.
Yeah, let's take a quick break, come back after that. We're going to pay a couple bills and try and get a word in edgewise with Russell Brand, right?
Russell.
Okay, let's take it away, Eric.
This show doesn't leave state lines. It's All Politics Are Local with Barry Dee.
All right, we are back with Leslie Holt and Russell Brand. I've never done an interview in tandem, but Russell tends to ramble a little bit. Leslie, what do you say we go back and try and get a word in edgewise with him? Okay, Eric, bring up Russell. Let's listen in and see if he's kind of taking a breath. I know you've been monitoring his conversation or his diatribe, as the case may be. So let's see what we got.
Might be practical, for surely as a theology evolves from the Old Testament into the New Testament, is
really
there a sense, without yielding what territory might be inferred to Islam here, if we were to continue the trajectory to the insisted final prophet?
Sure, absolutely.
That what we are offered in Acts,
do you want to talk about maybe,
for example, in the immediate era after Christ's death and resurrection, is that the kind of divinity endowed by the second covenant, God's reversal, inversion, and return on Abraham's sacrifice.
Okay, we'll be back.
He has a lot to say.
He really does, and I'm sure it's important, but we only got an hour, so we're going to stay with you, Leslie, because you're a little bit more current. He's talking about 2,000 years ago, so let's get back to that. Okay, so where we left off, okay, is that the counselors, you tie them into kids like within 15 minutes. They go in, they fill out the form. So tell me about the counseling. The counseling is typically not at the parent's home. It's at an office.
Yeah, no. It's not at the home.
Not at the school.
Nope, not at school, because kids, typically clam up.
Yeah, they're afraid. People talk, and they don't want anybody knowing. They don't want a chance of a leak or anything like that.
And they know the parents don't want, they want to keep things private. So
certainly.
Right. So what we do is we give them the opportunity to go to a private trauma-informed therapist, and they must be trauma-informed. Mm-hmm. And so they'll go to a private office, and that is a space that's safe. It is someplace that they feel like there's an adult that is listening to them, and more importantly, believing them. And we have kids that will go to their therapist and won't leave the office until another appointment is scheduled.
That's really breaking into a real comfort zone, right? Because they're comfortable and they feel safe where they're at. Yeah. And that's a big thing, right? Because then once you get the trust, once you can win the trust of the child, okay, which by the way is kind of the problem that got them into it to begin with, right? There's something happened, there was a luring or something like that, and so the trust has been betrayed, and what I always say is trust should never be given, it's earned, but you don't know that as a child. It's a big world, and everything's magical, right? Until it becomes horrible, evil, which is what's happened. This is pure evil when this happens.
Yes,
pure evil.
it is.
That you take the innocence of somebody and strip it from them like that.
We have, Barry, I have worked with kids that their abuser told them that the reason that they were being abused is because they asked for it. They actually asked for the act to happen.
Yeah, and they don't have the mental capacity, the experience to understand any different, because you're trusting an adult.
And the other thing is, many times, most of the time, these babies have been groomed. They've been groomed, and so they love this person that is doing this to them, and so they're not going to blame the person that they love. They're also not going to say this person is doing something bad for me, to me. So, so to have a space, where these kids can go and talk openly, and as I said, we for kids that are a little bit older and might not be so might be a little bit closed down, we find that equine therapy is amazing. And these kids, if they're out, they're doing something.
Get out there and be children.
And then, and then they start talking. And sometimes they don't even realize that they are. And so we work with a bunch of farms in the area. We just did an amazing shoot at Thorncroft.
Oh, Thorncroft, great place.
Yes. So Thorncroft and a Child's Light partner, and we have kids that go there. So we're doing a kind of a little PSA, a little commercial with a wonderful company in Westchester that did this for us, and it's called MC3. Shout out to them; they're amazing. So hopefully that'll be up and we can put that on the website. But we partner with other farms in the area, and that has been. And I can tell you stories about kids that we have sent to farms. And let me just give you a quick example.
Sure.
We met a little girl when she was about 16 and a half. A guardian ad litem called me and she said, listen, I know you're not going to pay for this. This is the only kind of therapy that this child will do. She's been in the foster care system since she's been 6. Now she's 16 and a half. She knows how the system works. She is kind of struggling a lot. She's looking at 18. She's going to be done with foster care. And of course, like any kid, she's panicked. So she's not going to school. She's not working. She's misbehaving. The foster parents are like, oh, you got to go when you're 18. We can't deal with this.
Off into the real world with no place.
Right. So the guardian ad litem told me a little bit about her story, and I thought, oh, no, we're not going to lose this kid. We're not. She's too darn smart. We're not losing her. I'm going to find. So she wanted to do equine therapy. The guardian ad litem said, the county won't pay for it. I know you won't. And I said, oh, well, now I have a challenge. I'm going to find a place for this little girl because we're not going to lose her. And so she committed to going to a program for 10 months, a very specialized program. It's called the Stable Moments Program. There's a farm that we work with out in West County, Locust Lane Riding. They do that program too. So first 3 months into the program, the little girl's back in school, and her grades are going up. 6 months in, she is she's doing great in school. She got a part-time job. About 9 months in, still doing great. Joined ROTC.
Oh, no way!
Where'd that come from?
Right?
It was adorable.
Discipline.
Yeah,
it's about discipline.
Yes.
So once they learn that they can control their life, because their world is spinning out, right? They have no control, and that's what their biggest fear is, right? So once they learn that they control their life, getting on the big horse, moving the horse around, figuring it out, steering it. And this is something that's not just mechanical. This thing can change at any time. Once they figure out how they can control it, they control themselves, because they have to control themselves to control the horse, right?
Right.
So, and that's what it comes down to, right? So now they understand the discipline, and discipline is good.
Yes.
Today it seems like discipline is bad. You're supposed to be able to do whatever you want, right?
But boundaries.
Yes.
You know?
Absolutely. And that's what it takes. And they got to have you got to give boundaries, because kids are always going to push it, right?
Right.
So, and these guys, they have no anything because they've been just wrecked, mentally wrecked. So now you start putting this in, and then they start figuring it out and figure out there's an order in the world, and then they can play by those rules. And then they can become functioning in society again.
Yeah.
And it's so important.
So, so this little girl, I have to tell you, her plan was, when she was 18 and out on her own, she was going to go on food stamps. She was going to go on
Play the whole
disability.
system. Yep.
Yes, because she was depressed. Of course she was depressed and anxious. Anybody would be. And panicked. She is now in college.
Wow.
She's in college.
She went from being potentially the ward of the state forever to somebody who can make a difference in the world.
Yes. Yeah.
That's incredible.
And,
God bless you.
Barry, we have another little girl who she was trafficked. She's going this fall to Temple for criminal justice. And she wants to work with either the FBI or the CIA working in human trafficking.
Yeah, you bring tears to my eyes on this. This is unbelievable.
And if I told you the little girl that did the equine therapy, you know how much that cost a child's life? $2,400.
To save a life.
To save a life.
Literally save a life.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
And I'm going to tell you, the burden on society is forever.
Exactly.
It's forever.
Yes.
So,
and with the trauma that little girl, and all of them, but that her story in particular, the trauma that little one experienced, and to see it was in her all the time. She did all the work. She did the hard work.
Wow.
We just cut the check.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. We have to wrap up with you. So you got some things you want to talk about real quick, like the website again, and a shout out to anybody, and financing, donations.
Yes.
You got 1 minute.
Yes. So go to the website if you're interested in helping us out. Which is www.childslight.com. And you can always reach out to us through text or phone call at 610-405-2968. And I have to, because we started this out, you started out your show talking about people that would not come on your show. I have to shout out to our new county commissioner, Eric Rowe. And when we needed funding for a little boy who literally saw his mother murdered in front of him, Eric Rowe, our new commissioner, stepped up and found funding for a child's life. And that little boy is thriving now.
They're representatives of us. They're supposed to help out when they can. God bless them for that. Well, thank you so much. Let's
thank you.
Let's go from the trauma. Let's go over. Let's see if we can at least get one word. Because we got to wrap up Russell Brand. So, Eric, let's see if we can get him back on. Bring him back in. Let's see where he's at.
There must be some kind of acceptance
that
he's still going. Cannot become
Hold on.
a rod
Does he always
to
do
steer,
this?
control, or prod others.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that, Russell. And you know what? We're out of time. Leslie?
Russell, call me.
Yeah, call her. She's got a big crush on you. And I just want to thank you for taking the time to come on and do that interview with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that was Russell Brand. Russell Brand was on there. I call him Russell Crowe. Russell Brand, and he's a great guy. He just talks a lot.
Yeah.
So let me wrap up the show here. As always, thanks to the affable and dazzling Donna Saul, the manager of WCHE, for keeping my show on the air every week. We're picking up more and more listeners. It's because people have a desire to know what's going on in their community. It certainly isn't for my good looks and charm. Today's music was provided by Don Henley, and it was the 1982 song Dirty Laundry from 1983. Don Henley was from the band The Eagles, not the football team. You know, a lot of people go through life without accomplishment, wasting their short time on Earth. Unlike my guest today, that would be both Russell Brand and Leslie Holt. Don't be one of those people. Get out, make a difference for the better. Help someone out. Clean up a public street, or at least part of it. Help out with Child's Light. Volunteer. Thank you, Leslie and Child's Light, for being part of that and making a positive impact on kids who need it most. You know, in the end, you benefit the taxpayers too, and all of us, because those are all burdens that we have to bear, and any life wasted is terrible. Remember, if you like my show, take the time to send a nice note to WCHE at WCHE1520.com. And if you don't like my show, listen, give me ratings. After all, it is all about me. And be sure to follow WCHE's Facebook page, where you can keep up on what's happening around town and around the county. You can keep up with my updates and videos, and on my Facebook page at WCHE, All Politics Are Local with Barry Dee, and my YouTube channel, All Politics Are Local with Barry Dee. I'm Barry Dee for All Politics Are Local on WCHE, and I'll be back next week. Thank you, as always, for listening.